You. And that's my cue to start the show. Welcome to another live edition of the Hard Rocket Sports Show, live from high atop Hard Rocket Sports Studios in beautiful scenic Monroe, New Jersey. We are your 2-hour weekly get-together to bring you all the biggest news around the world of hard rock, heavy metal, and, of course, the wide world of sports. And, guys, welcome to Thursday, August the 8th in the year of our good Lord 2024. It's been a rough day. It's been a rough 2 days, actually. 2 days have been a little rough on me, but that's all right. We'll make it. We'll get there. That's right. Got a great show for you tonight. I'm solo. As far as I know, Jeff will not be joining me tonight. Jeff is got some stuff to do. I might be joined by my good friend Frank Jeffrey. We'll see. If Frankie pops up, that'd be great. If he doesn't, I will try to inform and entertain you on my own. I'll see how I can do with that. Got a lot to get to tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the Olympics. We'll talk about Thurman Munson passing away last week. I missed the opportunity to get that in last week's show. I said I would get it in this week's show, and I will. Let's see. We'll talk about the NFL Hall of Fame inductions from this past weekend. And next year's possible class, we'll do that with Frankie if he pops up. Let's see. We're going to talk about maybe the 5 worst losses in Giants history. We'll talk a little Yankees and Mets. We'll talk about preseason games and should the quarterback get hit or not get hit. You know, let's try to. I heard it today. I heard it the other day, and I'm not going to take credit for it, but I did hear a little something on that. We'll talk about. Let's see, some of the guys not practicing in the NFL. We'll talk about preseason quarterbacks. Aerosmith retires. We'll talk a little Pete Alonso and Juan Soto, Mets, Yankees. We'll do whatever we can for about an hour. I want to do a little politics. I'm sorry, I'm all by myself. I got nothing else to do. So I'm going to talk a little politics, and I'll get my dad on with me. So I want to just, listen, I like to get my voice out there because it's my show. I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to talk a little politics before we get into it. Now, who's voting for the crazy people? You know, I'll tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you that I think Trump is is nutty to a certain extent, but I think his policies are terrific. Right? I've said it 100 times. What he stands for, policy-wise, what he does while he's in office, I think it's already there. We've already seen it. So this whole thing about him being a dictator, a threat to democracy, stick it. You know, he's already been president, and on January 20th, of 2021, he walked away. So that whole thing that he's going to stay in power, he's going to try to be a dictator, that's all out. This is his last election. Doesn't matter what happens if he wins this time. So please get that out of your heads. Second of all, if you thought now Joe Biden ran on the fact that he was a moderate, a center of the road Democrat, but his problem is he got influenced by the left, by the crazy people, and all of his crazy policies didn't work. Guys, look around. You go food shopping, you're paying 40% more. You go get gas price, you go get gas, you're paying $1 and change more. And that's saying that's on the conservative side. I think it's actually much more than that. if you follow Kamala Harris, and I do because I try to keep up on everything. For the last 4 years plus, she has been against fracking, okay, which is drilling for oil. She is, let's see, she's not been pro-Israel in the sense. All right, let's put it this way: the BLM riots. The governor of Minnesota let it happen. That's her running mate, and she bailed everybody out of jail. She was part of bailing all the people who burned that city down, that state down. She got them out of jail. We had all the riots this summer for Israel, right? All the anti-Israel protests. She was part of bailing those people out. Okay, let's call it what it is. He, even more so, is nuts. There's a guy who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting tampons in boys' bathrooms. This is a guy who said, and I quote, I could play you the quote. If you want to see it, I'll play it for you. He said, if Trump's building a 25-foot wall, I will build the 30-foot ladder factory. He is pro the invasion of the border. And so is she. She's the border czar. She was in charge. Don't let them tell you any different. There's plenty of video out there where she was in charge. Biden said it. They all said she's the boss. And guess what happened? We got overrun. They're both for giving illegals driver's license. What does that mean? Why is that a big deal? Because that's how you get to vote. So they're just trying to juice the rolls. You want to vote for these two, you do it. I'm just giving you my opinion. These are two nuts who are left of left. And she didn't even pick Josh Shapiro, who I would say is a moderate Democrat at the governor of Pennsylvania, who would have probably done a decent job. And all signs indicate that because of his pro-Israel stance, it wasn't going to fly with her stance. I have no idea. She's not said. She hasn't spoken. Here's a woman running for president of the United States. She was picked to do this, and she was forced on everybody 17 or 18 days ago. And not once has she given a press conference where she stood in front of people and said, ask me a question and I'll answer it. She's done nothing but walk out, read off a teleprompter, and walk away. She's given nothing. She is now flip-flopping possibly. She is flip-flopping, and Michael, they do. And see, the problem is people don't vote for her. They vote against Trump. And I get it. You got to look past Trump the person. Trump the president did a great job. Inflation, when he left office, 1%, 1.4%. Biden got in 1 year in, 9%. We're still at 3.5% and climbing a little bit. Okay, everything is up. We're weak around the world. Nobody respects us. Iran's sending missiles at our people across the world, and we do nothing about it. Their policy isn't going to change. She is worse than he is. He's incompetent, and he just was happy to be sitting there. He's just all, give me my Jell-O, give me my Jell-O. I need my Jell-O. And everybody else ran the country. He just wanted the title, and he's just letting everybody do whatever they want. She's worse. She actually, I think, believes she can run the country. So you do it. You got to go to vote. Please, I hope everybody votes. Just vote. Just do the due diligence. Don't vote against Trump just to vote against him. Actually look into what this woman's about. She's been for 5 years. She's had an anti-normal campaign, and now she's trying to flip-flop, and she's trying to say, "Well, I'm not told." She said she wanted. You have a gun? I want mandatory buyback. That is, hey, you own a gun? I think it's the assault rifles, AR-15s, and that kind of stuff. She basically said it's going to be mandatory, which means you own a gun, we're going to give you $100. You have to give us your gun back, which is basically, we're taking your guns and we'll tell you what you can have. Guys, I know most of you don't have guns out there and you don't care. These are the freedoms. And the only thing she's running on is we're not going to stop you from aborting. And here's a guy who she's running with who believes in late-term abortions or letting babies be born and letting them die on a painful, desolate death. These are not two normal people. And I beg you all to please do your research. We've had a rough 4 years. And it's all because of the guy you elected. I didn't elect him. I voted against him. But enough of you voted for him out there. I don't believe in the crazy, theory. Nobody's proven anything on the election was stolen. I'm not buying into it. I was listening, but nobody ever offered anything on it. So I moved past that. Joe Biden was president. He did a horrendous job. This woman, put this way, when she ran for office, she couldn't beat him. She couldn't get 1% of the vote. She was the first person to drop out. She was so unlikable. She had so many people disliked her personality and her stances. She was the first person to drop out. In 2019, she didn't even make it to 20. She was the first person to drop out, and she got the job. Again, he said it. I'm hiring a black woman. Didn't say I'm hiring the best person. Didn't say I'm hiring the most qualified person. He just said I'm going to hire a black woman. Okay, you've narrowed the field, but you didn't tell me she was the best black woman out there. I don't know if she is or isn't. You narrowed it down to I'm going to hire the best. What if there was the best Asian American woman, or the best white woman, or the best Asian American man or Puerto Rican man? He said, I'm not going for the best person. I'm going for a black woman. Now, why her? I don't know. But she was so loud, and I think it was just strictly to appease the progressives. Now, look at again, I'm sorry to go on so long, but I got so much to say. Look at the progressives now. Jamal Bowman lost. Cori Bush just lost. People are starting to realize that this far left agenda is nuts. What these people want to turn our country into are crazy. This is a woman, Kamala Harris, who said we should not have Christmas because kids in the Ukraine weren't celebrating. Now, I feel terrible for them, but there's no reason that my children, my grandchildren, and yours can't have Christmas. These are people who believe in being woke. You can't say this, you can't say that. I'm sorry, folks. Please, I just beg of you, pay attention and go out there and really do your due diligence. And don't just vote against Donald Trump, because what you're seeing now will be worse. These are the two most radical people on that side of the aisle that could have picked. She was voted the most progressive senator, and he again let his state burn. Go to Minneapolis. He was the 8th most left state. So when I say by that, it was the 8th most state where people moved out of there to go to Florida or Tennessee or Texas or a different state. He had more people leave in his time than 40 something other states. So please do yourself a favor. Don't just flick the dial because you don't like Donald Trump. Because you know what? Not only are you harming yourself, you're harming your families. You're harming this country. We are a laughing stock right now. People are doing whatever they want. Nobody fears this country anymore. And you know why I say, well, who wants to be feared? No, you do. Peace through strength, folks. It happened through Reagan. To a certain extent, it happened with Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. Look what happened during Trump. Nobody invaded anybody. They had the Abraham Accords. The people in the Middle East were actually starting to get along. There were peace accords being sent, because people said Donald Trump's going to get another 4 years. Who knows what's going to be in after that? Listen, we got to get along. All of a sudden, Biden came in. He gave $40 billion back to the Iranians, thinking they're going to play nice. And what they use it for? To start bombing people, to go in and pay Hamas and Hezbollah to attack Israel. And we stand on the sidelines. So, folks, I'm sorry to go on so long. All I can tell you is this. I'm very passionate about this election because I have 2 granddaughters now. I have another grandchild on the way. I have 5 kids that I worry about. And this country right now is in the toilet. And if you don't see it, if you don't see the crime, if you don't see the lack of patriotism out there, do you see the far left nut jobs? You're going to put 2 of them in office if you vote for these 2 maniacs. And I'm telling you, they're maniacs. YouTube it. Just go on YouTube and type in Kamala Harris, type in Tim Walz, and just look at the highlights of the things that they're for. And if you can look at that and say, I'm voting for these two maniacs, by all means, do it. Help yourself. All I'm saying is don't go into the ballot box, pull a button, and say, I'm voting against Trump, and I have no idea what these two people stand for. Because she's going to flip-flop. I'm telling you, for a decade, this woman has been against anything and everything that most of us believe in. They are radical people, especially him. But she's right there, and maybe more. But folks, I'm just begging you. And I'm going to do this every week before I get to sports and music. I'm going to do this because it's that important to me. Please go into that. Just do the research. That's all I'm begging you. If you do, yeah, Mike, I am in Manhattan every single day, and I see it. I wish people would drive through Manhattan, drive through Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago. Yeah, go through these major cities and tell me that. And all these cities, guess what, folks? They're all Democrat run. Go to Florida and see how nice it is. Ask my dad how nice Florida is when we go to Florida. I guarantee you my father wouldn't go near Manhattan right now. Ask my brother if you talk to him about what California's like, how much he pays in gas, $7 or better. What it cost to get a house out there? Trump was in office before he left. I think interest rates were 3%, a little more, maybe a little less. It's 7 or 8% now to get a house. Who's buying a house right now? You can't buy a house. You have to decide whether you're doing groceries or a car payment, folks. Please, I'm begging you, just do the research. Frankie Cat, you can't say it any better than that. I understand you hate Trump, but for 4 years, it was pretty good. Well, I'd say 3. When COVID hit for the last 3.5, then the last 6 months was a disaster because of COVID. And I'm not blaming anybody because nobody knows how to deal with that. But I will just tell you this. Just look at the first 3 years of Trump. Look at the last 4 years. Tell me what you want, and then do me a favor. Just go. Everybody goes to YouTube. You're all on it. YouTube, Kamala Harris. YouTube, Tim Walz. And just listen to the things that they've said. This isn't me. This isn't some Fox News reporter that you don't trust. Listen to them in their own words tell you what they believe in, and then you tell me you can walk in there and flip the button for these two maniacs. If you can, that's what the rights are for America. For me, I already know enough. I ain't voting for them. I would have loved to have had Tim Scott or DeSantis run. I would have ran for any other Republican. It's no problem. I think Trump's time was 4 years ago and running through. But if he's my choice over that, I'm voting for Trump. If I could do it 5 times, I'd do it. If he ran for Pope right now, I'd vote for him. So please do me a favor, folks. I'm passionate about this. I'm getting off my soapbox now. We're going to talk sports and music the rest of the night. But do me a favor. Just do your homework. Don't go in with I hate Trump, so I'm going to vote for whoever's there. Don't. And I'm begging you, if you want my help, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. In the meantime, let's get the show started. I appreciate everybody tuning in and giving me my 21 minutes of standing on a soapbox, because I'm telling you, that's how dire this is. As bad as this has been with the meat puppet, I would tell you the next 4 years with those two, you won't recognize this country. That's all I'm going to tell you. You won't recognize the country. Let's get the show started. Let's get my Pops on and see what he's got to say. And let's talk some sports and music. What's going on, Pops?
What's up, Tom? How you doing?
I'm good. Just trying to.
No. You talk what you got to talk.
Yep.
What
do you got, Pop? What do you got? What's on your mind?
I was watching the ball. Well, I know the Giant game's tonight at 8:00.
No, it's on right now, I believe.
No, I thought it was 8:00.
No, I'm pretty sure. I turned it on. It says Giants at Detroit Lions right now. So, yeah, you can turn that on right now on Fox 5.
And I was watching the Yankee game, and they were having a fit because they walked Judge three or four times, three times purposely.
Okay.
And they were bellyaching.
I
don't understand. They did the same thing when Maris and Mantle were playing.
Sure.
They kept Mantle in fourth position to back him up. So they had to pitch to Maris.
Sure.
They wanted to do. Then when the owner who I think forgot who he was.
Was
They
it
came
Del?
down.
Was it Del Webb or?
I don't know if they were owned by CBS yet.
No,
No,
CBS
they
was
weren't.
CBS was later. That's when it fell apart.
Yeah.
66.
And they wanted to change it because naturally everybody wanted Mantle to break the record, not Maris.
Well,
So
are
they
you
wanted
are
to
you,
put
are you upset with the teams that are walking him, or would you be more upset the Yankees can't put somebody behind Judge who can protect him?
Listen, this is part of the game.
Yeah.
This is the difference between a good player and a great player. A great player doesn't. You pitch to me, you pitch to me. Eventually, they're going to stop doing it. They're going to have to stop doing it, I think. Because if you.
Well,
I mean, listen, Mano had.
It depends.
Maris had Mano. After you got past Mano, there really was no great.
Well, think about it. Think about that 61 team that, behind them was Yogi, was Johnny Blanchard. Guys, Elston Howard was winning MVPs at that point. So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know. I don't know what the lineup was, but while I got you, they still probably pitched around Mantle. You had 3 catches, hit 100 and something homers that year. Elston Howard hit 30 something homers that year.
Yeah, but they wanted Mantle to go for third, and they wanted Maris bat cleanup.
Well,
because they wanted Mantle to break the record.
I got you, but think about this. If I reversed it, Mantle still gets pitched around. I would have rather pitched to Roger Maris, who was a really good player, but not a great player. He had a great year.
No, he was a good.
Yeah,
I tell you, Tommy, he was. Even Mantle said it. He was better than what he had. The tools. The only thing he couldn't hit for was average.
Well, that's the point, Dad. So think about it. In 1961, guys were hitting normally 25, 30 home runs. Okay. But Roger Maris was a 260 hitter. So if I got Mickey Mantle, who's a 320 hitter, who hits 50 home runs a year, if he's batting third, I'm pitching around Maris. All they did was make Maris a better hitter because they had to pitch to him because Mantle's behind him. You didn't want to walk, Maris and then Mantle have 2 guys on base, and then you still have a decent set of guys with either Howard,
That's
Blanchard,
true too.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
So
that's true.
So Roger Maris got made into a great player for a year because the guy hitting behind him was a great player. The problem for the Yankees right now is the lineup works best where Soto hits second because he takes a lot of walks. Judge is getting a lot of walks because teams don't want to pitch to him. I mean, Jesus, in the second inning, nobody out and they're walking and they put him on base. It's a ton of respect. The problem is the Yankees don't have Johnny Blanchard, Elston Howard, Joe Pepitone. They don't have Tony Kubek and Rich. They got a bunch of guys who are just starting to now play well. If they hit well,
my voice of thinking is if you put Judge second, okay, Soto third, Soto's going to either walk or he's going to be tough to get out. Okay, so now you automatically have somebody. I mean, granted, it may.
I would agree. I tell you what, I agree with you. If I were the Yankees, I would flip flop them because if you're going to walk, make them pitch to Judge because you don't want them pitching around him, and he's more apt to get a big hit. And the guy behind him is either going to walk or get on base. I would agree with you. If I were the Yankees, I'd flip flop it. Judge would be batting 2, and he would be batting 3.
Now I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics.
I tell you the truth, the last 2 nights I didn't, but up until probably Monday night, I watched a ton of the Olympics. All of the swimming.
I thought it was a little. I don't know if the guy's full of sugar or not.
Who?
The guy that won the 100-yard dash.
Yes.
He ran in the 200.
Yes.
He finished third. Then all of a sudden he went down, and he told everybody he had COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had COVID. Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't check. They'll test them guys.
Well, I think he said they checked him for it, and they said it was all right for him to run in it. That's fine. To me, it sounds like you're coming with an excuse.
Yeah.
Not only did you didn't come first, but you didn't come second.
Yeah, he just won the 100 by 5/100th of a second. I mean, I think literally his foot crossed the line.
Right.
I mean, he ran a great race. Don't get me wrong, and fast as heck. But this isn't the most dominating guy in the world, and he obviously showed it in that race. I'm not a big fan of the guy. He's a little bit on the arrogant side. So I'm always kind of anti-arrogant. I like the great player.
I don't mind if you're arrogant if you can back it up. If you can't back it up, then it bothered me. But it just sounded so. He came into. If you watch the race tonight, they'll probably show it. He came back to the thing, found out he came third, and then he just about collapsed on the field.
Oh, really?
So it was
a little stage.
Yeah, back. Some guys can take the loss, some guys can't. I'm not saying it did, and I'm surprised that if he really had COVID, that they would let him run.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, unless he had no symptoms. I don't know if they're testing COVID anymore, checking temperatures. I think that's past at this point. But listen, bottom line is you lost. If to me, I give you, if you're actually sick and you're not yourself and you go out there and compete, and guys, this will go to my Simone Biles rant that I'll do after. But if you're under the weather and you go out there and compete and you give it 400% and you come up a little short, it's not an excuse, but I pat you on the back for giving an effort. But don't use that as an excuse. You can't.
Right. If don't you come out with it.
Yeah,
as soon as the race was over.
Correct. If you want to say, hey, listen, I don't feel well, I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm pushing myself. To me, if you're racing, keep it to yourself. It's immaterial. You were strong enough to go out there and race. You were strong enough to go out there and play the game. You're strong enough to go out there and compete. I don't want to hear the excuse later on, hey, I wasn't feeling well. Bull. You know what? Then don't compete. Then say I can't do it. But don't compete and say, well, I really wasn't feeling well. That's why. No, you got beat. Regardless of why you got beat, you got beat. I don't like excuses. I like the person who says, hey, I wasn't feeling well, but I gave it a shot. Looked. That's it. Just
you're not the first person.
That's it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being the third best person in the entire world at an event. There's no shame. Yeah, I'm sorry. To me, I mean, granted, everybody wants to win the gold. Everybody wants a gold medal. I get it. But there ain't no shame in 2 and 3 in the world. I mean,
considering the records that they're breaking.
Yeah, I mean, at the Olympics, there's 15, 16 guys competing for these spots. That's not counting all the people for the last 4 years who competed to get to this spot. So there are hundreds and thousands of people trying to get to that spot. For you to wind up third in the world at that moment, pat yourself on the back. You have done something most people will never dream of doing. So I have no interest in hearing excuses.
Yeah, I know.
You win, great. You lose, stand there, put your hand over your heart when you hear your anthem or somebody else's, and that's it.
America came second. They came second and third in the race.
Frankie, I root against the U.S. all the time in the basketball. And up until recently, I always rooted for the women's soccer team. I was a big fan until Megan Rapinoe and that crowd, and I've been rooting against them. I started rooting for them again now. But as far as the basketball teams go, the WNBA players are still, some of them are kneeling. I don't root for them. And the basketball, I find it unwatchable. And I can't root for LeBron James. I don't care what happens. Listen, great player. I can't root for the guy. So I don't not only root against them, I just don't watch and I don't support any of the Olympic basketball teams. I just don't do it anymore. So I'm okay with you. I'm with you, Frankie. What else you got, Pops?
Man, not much. I'm going to relax now, watch the ball game.
Yeah, you got the Giants on Channel 5.
The Yankees are playing.
Yep, so you got a good night ahead of you.
Good night. And I want to just agree with you on one thing. I do love Florida.
There you go. Told you. I said it. That's the place to be.
Other than that, I'll not say the word. Have a good one, Tommy. I hope to see you this weekend.
I'll see you over the weekend, Pops.
Bye, buddy.
I talk to you. That's my daddy texting with me every week, and we love having him part of the show, even though he's probably as anti-Trump as it goes, but that's his opinion, and he's welcome to it. Frankie, I'm with you. Most of those guys on the Olympic basketball team, I just can't root for. I don't have a problem with Tatum so much. I hate Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is the Next to Popovich is one of the biggest asshole coaches I've ever seen ever heard in my entire life. Yeah, I don't like LeBron. He's the fakest great player I've ever seen. Again, talented. I never seen a guy flop the way this guy. As great a player as he is, the way he acts when is amazing. The guy's 6'9", 250 pounds, and somebody brushes past him, and you would think he got shot from upper deck. So I can't root for him. I don't like Joel Embiid. Again, most of those guys, I'm lukewarm on Steph Curry. I think these are all very talented players. I don't like the game of basketball the way it's played. Everybody shoots threes. Nobody plays with their back to the basket. There's no running gun style. You get a 3-on-1 fast break, and these guys are pulling up and shooting threes. I have no interest in the game. I tried to root for against my country, but with those teams, it does not break my heart if they lose. I'm sorry. I doesn't bother me if they lose. Matt, if you're still hanging in there, I agree. I've showed some highlights of this kid, Newbin, and by all accounts, he's had a great camp. So I'm excited. I'm DVRing the Giant game. I'll watch it when the show's over. Again, I'm Tom Florio. Jeff's out tonight. Maybe he'll pop in. Might see Frank Jeffrey. Frank Catalano. Frank Jeffrey said he's only coming on the show tonight to keep you in line. That's a direct quote. So just so you know, Frank's coming on. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame weekend and next year's Hall of Fame class. So we'll if you guys hang in there, maybe Frank will be on. If he's not, we'll hold it for next week. I do want to talk about a bunch of things. I did my rant on politics. So let's move on. I did want to mention Thurman Munson. So I was listening to, I forgot last week. I had it queued up on the show to talk about Thurman Munson. It was the anniversary of his passing. I think it's 45 years, if I'm not mistaken, since Thurman passed away. And I remember I was home. My parents were on their way back from, I think, Las Vegas. I was home basically alone at about, so I'm 79, I'm about 11 years old, right before my 12th birthday. And I'm home alone. I think my landlord, she lived upstairs. So I had been brought home early because I had a championship baseball game. We were playing Caggianos. Mike Murray was pitching. They had Mike Murray. They had a really good team. So I was playing for Daniels, had a really good squad. And we were playing for the championship, East Shore Little League. And we had won, and I was home either that day or the next day. It was, I forget the date, but I was home waiting for my parents to get off a plane. And so think of this. So now I'm waiting for my parents. I know they're flying home from Las Vegas. I'm not sure what time they're getting in. And across the TV comes in, plane crash, news at 11, the news at 6. And now I'm like, oh my God. Now there ain't no internet. There's nobody you could call. Right? Yeah, at that point, I'm 11 years old. I don't know what to do. I'm sitting there. I don't know what to do. Okay. So, and in fact, it was my mom and dad and my Aunt Ro and Uncle Bob. So my mom's sister. So I'm sitting there waiting. So within a short amount of time, it comes on that New York Yankee captain, catcher, Thurman Munson has perished in a plane crash. So you get more and more. And at that point, I would never say Thurman was my favorite Yankee. No, I was in the American League. I was in the American League. I played the American League with that wasn't the other league. The other league was Galicchio's. I think Serta's was Farm. I'm trying to think. In my league, it was Azara's. It was the other funeral home, the one on Chestnut Avenue, started with a V, I think. It was the other one. The other league was Galicchio's Plumbing. There was the bank. I tried to get the name of the bank that was on that one with Billy McGuire, Ronnie Brandt. So I was in the American League. We won the championship that year with. I think it was that year we won the championship. Did we lose that year to Caggianos? I'm a little blurred. I don't know if that was my first year or my second year. The first year I played with Daniels, we beat Caggianos and Mike Murray. The second year we lost in the championship. And the third year we got hammered. Yeah. Yeah. So CMB agency, right? No. So anyway, Thurman Munson. So I remember where I was. I was sitting on the couch, Bay Street, living next to Von Briesen Park. And, you know, as an 11-year-old kid, I mean, I idolized these guys. I mean, that was my favorite Yankee team. They were not having a great year, but, you know, you were hoping after the year before when they came back from, you know, whatever it was, 16 games or 11 games, it was like 16 games. They came back and won that year. You say, well, maybe it can happen again. And, you know, obviously when with the passing of Thurman Munson, you know, that was obviously out the window. So I'm listening this week. Joe Beningo was covering the afternoon guys at WFN, and he was talking about Hall of Famers, and he said, "Oh, Thurman Munson should be in the Hall of Fame, and Ron Guidry should be in the Hall of Fame, and David Cone should be in the Hall of Fame, and this one should be in the Hall of Fame." And while I'm a huge Guidry fan, Guidry's not a Hall of Famer. He had one amazing year. 85 was another great year. Otherwise, he won 100 and something games. Cone is borderline to me. Cone was the best pitcher in baseball for about 5 years. You know, 91, 92 to 96. Cone may have been the best pitcher in baseball. You could argue Martinez, Clemens, David Cone was the guy. You want to win a championship, you went and got David Cone. He changed he put the stamp on the Yankees. They're not whole. That's a borderline one. Thurman Munson is a tough one for me because, you know, I think Thurman needed a couple more years, but it would not kill me that Thurman Munson was a Hall of Famer. I think he's better than Fisk. I thought he was a shade below Johnny Bench. While you know Johnny Bench put up much better numbers over his career, I thought during the play of the game, Thurman Munson was a great hitter, a really good defensive catcher. He played in one of the toughest places you could play. He won 2 championships as captain of the New York Yankees. All that matters. So, you know, it was and I think it's 45 years since then is a tough anniversary to jump on. But again, I just wanted to mention Thurman Munson, and if anybody's got a thought on whether you think he's a Hall of Famer or not, let us know. In the meantime, we'll move on from Thurman and maybe get to let's see what I want. It's my Simone Biles. Okay, so a friend of mine, my good man Al Albanese, put up a post this week about Simone Biles being the GOAT and how J.D. Vance, you know, maligned her for quitting on her team last year, and I couldn't agree more with J.D. Vance. Now, I again, and this caused I can't believe how many people jumped down this conversation. Most people were against it or against her or sided with that or a lot, but there was still a few. And I'll say this. Do I believe there's mental illness? Sure, I do. There's no doubt. Okay. I get it. I don't understand it because I don't believe that I have any mental illness. That doesn't mean that I don't. I just don't believe I do. I feel like I'm a normal human being who has fears, anxieties, who has, you know, days that they're a little under the weather, or maybe a little emotionally tired. But for the most part, I think rationally, and I'm fine. But I do understand that there are people out there. I do think now that a lot of people use, especially nowadays, mental illness as a crutch. Well, things are a little hard. I'm going to say I'm mentally bothered, and I am going to use this as my crutch to not compete, to not try, to not work hard, to not do the right thing. And I don't believe in that. So when it came to Simone Biles, and the comments have been, she's the GOAT. She was walking around with the GOAT necklace. You cannot be the GOAT. I've had this conversation already in the year here. I just felt like I wanted to get it out there for more. Simone Biles is a great gymnast. Simone Biles may be one of the greatest women gymnasts of all time. She may even be one of the greatest gymnasts of all time, men or women. There's no doubt she's super talented. She quit on her team last year. That's it. Part of being the GOAT, part of being the greatest person to do what you do, on the ball. Yeah, again, that is true, Frankie. That is the truth. But part of the thing of being the GOAT is also pushing through times where you're not at your best to be your best. And I'll give you a perfect example. Michael Jordan in the championships. Okay, there was the one year, I think it was the last one against Utah. I'm not sure if it was the first Utah or second one, where he got sick. Some people say the flu. He thinks he had food poisoning. He could have easily said, "I can't play." Not only did he go out there and play with 100 and something fever, the guy dominated. That's pushing through. That's going out there when you're not 100% physically or mentally able or capable and doing it anyway. That's the GOAT. Somebody brought up to me one night and said, Michael Jordan retired, so how could he be the GOAT? It's the two different things. He didn't retire in the middle of the championship series. He didn't retire in the middle of a bad season. Michael Jordan won 3 titles and said, I've had enough. I'm going to go play baseball. I'm bored. Now, I think there's more underlying parts of that. I think he had to. Then he came back and won 3 more. So, again, Simone Biles is a great gymnast. She might have mental health issues. She might. I have no idea what's in her head. No idea. But you don't get to be the GOAT. You don't get to be called the greatest of all time. And when the chips are down, or when you're needed most, or when it's the biggest stage in the world, you say, I don't feel right. I'm going to sit this one out. You're not the GOAT. Now, I don't run around saying people are the GOAT easily. I look at Tom Brady. There's a guy never missed a game. Other than he tore his Achilles, the guy played every down. That's a GOAT. To me, that's the greatest quarterback I ever watched. And there's some good ones. Montana, who I hated. Lawrence Taylor played through immense pain. Now, the guy was a complete maniac off the field. But Sunday morning, the guy showed up, played with harnesses on his arm. That's the GOAT. When the bell rings, you answer it. When you don't answer that bell, you are not the GOAT. You could still be great. You could still be one of the greatest. To me, you cannot be the GOAT. You cannot be designated as the greatest of your thing when you cannot answer the bell when it rings. That's it. No knock on Simone Biles. She's a great gymnast. Maybe the greatest women's gymnast. Maybe it's close. Nadia Comaneci. There's so many great ones. I don't know. I will not cast that vote. I don't know enough. I've watched a ton of women compete in the Olympics. I don't watch it every day. The girl has a tremendous resume. She's a great gymnast. She's just not the greatest of all time. She quit on her team. Don't matter why. And you know what? All these people say, my kid got mental. You know what? Your pussification of your children. If they sign up, go out there and compete. You show up on game day. You show up at your event. You do your business, and you give it your best effort. I've done a lot of stuff in my life. I've done some good stuff. I've done a lot of bad stuff. I failed at a ton of stuff. But nobody could ever say that I woke up and said, I'm not competing today. It never, ever happened. Okay? Doesn't mean I was great at what I did. Mentally, I never let anything get in my head that way. And if you want to be known as the greatest, as she does, obviously, because she walks around with the GOAT on her neck, show up every day. You show up every time, and you push through, and you fight through. Now, if you tell me, hey, I blew out my knee, I can't land. Now, I watched, was it Kerri Strug? The girl had 1 foot. She went and competed, won gold or silver, whatever it was, back a bunch of years ago. You know, if you tell me physically something happened, hey, if you physically can't do it, it's just not there for you. Shit happens. You tore your leg up. You know, you can't run the race. That happens. But if you tell me, well, just not myself today, mentally, I'm just not there. For me personally, you're not the greatest. You need to overcome that. So again, 7:45 here at Hard Rocket Sports. The Giants are on. They are losing 3-0. I don't know who started. I just got it on in the background. I'm DVRing it. I'll catch it later. Like I said, I'm hoping Frank Jeffrey pops up. If he does, great. We'll talk a little bit of Hall of Fame. If not, we'll talk a little Yankees and Mets. And some other stuff before we call it a day. Aerosmith retires. We'll talk a little bit about Aerosmith. Not the biggest Aerosmith fan in the whole world. Frankie, in terms, I don't know who's still out there with it. I see a bunch of people. I just see numbers. Where does Aerosmith rank in the annals of American hard rock bands? Van Halen, Kiss, Aerosmith. I'm not talking, the English bands and Canadian bands. I'm just talking about if you were ranking Aerosmith in the annals of American hard rock, you can make it metal if you want to throw the Metallicas. Well, I don't think it's fair to compete. But if you would say, all right, you got Kiss, you got Van Halen, you got Aerosmith, you got Boston, you got the Eagles, hard rock. Where does Aerosmith rank? I know they're a great band, but they're not a band that I would jump in and say, hey, they're in my catalog. And where do they rank in that? To me, Kiss, Van Halen, obviously Boston goes in there. There's a ranking. I'm curious, they're one of the best bands ever. Frankie, I'm not disagreeing. I think Steven Tyler's got a great voice. Obviously they've sold millions of albums, but where do you rank them against those other bands? Are they better? Would you put them higher on the chart than Van Halen or Kiss? Not from a fan spec. Take the fans out of it. Just saying popularity, record sales, talent of the band. Would you rank them above those two bands? And anybody's out there wants to answer, I'll take your in on it. Again, I don't carry Aerosmith that high. They got a bunch of decent songs. Love their 80s, 70s. Love how they changed in the 80s. Yeah, again, I think that's a very good thing, Frankie. You're right. I think sometimes bands, and I think Kiss tried to do it, but unsuccessfully. There's some bands like Kiss had a real good formula, and they should have stuck with it. They tried to change with the times. They tried to change with the Elder. They tried to change with Dynasty. They tried to change with Creatures of the Night, and then again with Psycho Circus. Like they kept trying to reinvent themselves, and they weren't. That's not how they wrote. That's not how they needed to stay in that same vein and keep going. Aerosmith did a nice job. I mean, they incorporated the rap when they did Walk This Way with Run DMC. Yeah, I would agree with that, Frankie. I'm not an Eagles fan. I think Boston is a borderline. They just don't have the catalog for me that Aerosmith does. But yeah, easily Kiss, Van Halen. You could flip flop that either way. Eagles, obviously the Eagles. Again, I'm not stretching it too deep into other bands at this moment, but it's an end of an era. And I always say all the time, I hope these guys go out there and stick around for a million years. I do. When it's time to go, and when you go, just stay gone. Don't do the I'm going to retire and come to my show and get the commemorative T-shirt and the commemorative underwear, and then 2 years from now, we're just kidding. We're going to come back. So I know there's some health issues for Steven Tyler. Yeah, I agree, Frankie. I think Boston's. I think talent-wise, they have a very talented band, but they just don't have the catalog that they do. So yeah, I would so wholeheartedly agree. The funny part is, there aren't a lot of newer bands after these bands, Frankie. After the Kisses and the Van Halens and Eagles, Metallica, Guns, they're younger. But, I don't know if you put certainly would put Metallica in that category. Guns, maybe a harder version. I never thought Guns was metal. But to me, Guns is overrated. That's one of the most overrated bands. That one of the greatest debut albums of all time. After that, it's very suspect, and their antics kill them. But, I could throw Guns into that mix of American bands, that ran around, that not metal. I think you got to keep Metallica out of it because I don't think you could put the thrash bands and metal bands into that category. So I like to keep it. Foo Fighters is an interesting one. You're right. And some of the those bands from Seattle, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, obviously Foo Fighters. Skinner's an interesting one. See, the problem I have with Skinner is, is it really Skinner? I guess it is. You'd have to put them in that mix, I guess. And are they rock? Are they country rock? I'm talking rock, hard rock. Is Skinner in there, or are they in with the Molly Hatchets of the world? Agree about Guns. Aerosmith definitely in my top. Yeah, Billy, I agree. I'm not the biggest Aerosmith fan. They deserve to be, especially of American bands. Now, if you want to take this worldwide and where they've ranked in those 70s and 80s bands, they probably drop out of there for me. Guns, I'm sorry, is the most overrated band of all time. I mean, he's a horrendous singer. I think most of the band is average. I think Slash is a really good player, but they have one great album. It's a great album, the first one. After that, straight downhill. And everything else about them makes it. So, to me, Guns is the most, and the fact that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the biggest travesty of all time. Ahead of Maiden, that just, to me, is disgusting. And, to me, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stopped being the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a long time ago. But the Guns phenomenon they were different. Everybody was wearing, leather and plastic and whatever, motorcycle jackets, all that stuff was in there. They came out and they were wearing dirty jeans and ripped shirts, and it was completely different than the other bands. And I think people were ready for it. I wasn't. I was still, 87, 88. I was still digging the Maidens and Priests and Queensryche. But Guns came out and things started to change. And then right after Guns started to change, you started with the Pearl Jams and Nirvanas, and they were the flannel and all that, and I didn't buy into all of that. But I got to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of that music. But but to me, Guns is the most overrated. But Aerosmith, as far as American bands, yeah, definitely my top 5. And again, I don't own a single album. I love a handful of songs. It's just not my thing. But yeah, it's interesting. But Gone is another great one, and they just aren't replacing them now, and that's a shame. Again, we're missing Jeff tonight. He's out. I'll give him up. He's food shopping. That's right. Jeff's food shopping tonight with his lovely wife, and couldn't make the show. He might jump in on the tail end of it, but if he does, great. If he doesn't, I'll muddle through as I do every week and figure it out. Lots of stuff on the TV. I'm not the grunge thing. I just never bought into. It's too depressing. It's too dark. And I have a thing against what's his name, Dave Grohl, and it's nothing against Dave personally. That guy's a fantastic musician. Comes across as a great guy. I'm sure he is. But every time in the last decade and change that there's any sort of a hard rock and metal category, speech to be given, a presenter at an award show, Dave Grohl shows up. It's like he's turned into the hard rock and metal MC. Now, I'm glad it's him and not Eddie Trunk. And it's not Dave Grohl's fault. People just ask him to do it, and he probably loves to do it, and nothing wrong with it. It's just like, who made him the ambassador? I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for Kamala, but she seemed to wind up in that spot anyway, right? I mean, that's a whole different story again. I'm not going back to the beginning. But the grunge thing, I just never bought. Just too depressing. All the dark tunings, and there's some. Alice in Chains got a couple good tunes. I'm sure there's some talent there. Jeff's a huge fan, so he rattles it off. But I'm not by now. Kid Rock, Frankie, I've come to love Kid Rock the last couple of years because I've seen other. It's not just Cowboy and some of that stuff that he sang early on. Check out We the People. There's a whole bunch of stuff to him that I never knew existed, and I would love to go see him in concert. So if he comes around again anytime soon, I will go because I have become a pretty big Kid Rock fan. So yeah, he's got some really good tunes. But there, his other guy who's in his 50s. I mean, where's the young generation, boys? I try to find new stuff. I just don't know where it comes from. So, but again, sorry to see Aerosmith go. Hopefully, and I say this and truly mean this in a good way. Hopefully, they don't come back. But I get tired of bands retiring, and then also the whole thing with Motley Crue, and they're not going to come back unless the next year they come back, and then in the middle of that they come back and they're going to put more albums up. They put more albums out. They're going to put more albums out, and then they kick out Mick Mars, and I'm not buying into any of that. Yeah, I'm good, Frankie. I will definitely see Kid Rock live at some point. I will definitely. Where do you guys rank Ted Nugent? Ted Nugent is one of those anomalies in there that, obviously an American act. I think Ted's very. I be honest, never was a huge fan of his music. Cat Scratch Fever, that kind of stuff. Just never got me running to the radio to crank it up a little louder. I did see him play. He was on a show a bunch of years ago, and he just sat down and played the Star Spangled Banner. He played, and he's really a much better guitar player than I expected him to be. So, but the Nuge is a guy should be in that category in that thing, and I know he's supposed to be going out on his final. Not that I want to run to see him. I've been trying to get him on the show. I almost thought I had him, but it didn't work out. His people got to be a little high and mighty, but anyway. So I did my Simone Biles rant. I did my, let's see, you see things like quit, come back. See, the problem with it, Frankie, is this. You milk your fan base. And again, you as a fan don't care, and I get that. But to me, Kiss, all right, I'm going to play our last concert. I'm going to buy the ticket, and you're paying extra money for it. I'm going to buy the T-shirt. You're paying extra money for it. You're going to buy the commemorative mug. And you buy all this stuff, and the next thing you know, they come back, and 5 years later, that stuff that was the last show is no longer the last show. And you're milking your fans. To me, just say, hey, guys, we're stepping away for a while. We'll decide if we're coming back or not. We might be gone for a few years. If we decide to retire, we'll let you know. But when they do these commemorative shows, and this is like, I went to see Black Sabbath because it was their last concerts. I saw one of the last ones. Me and Jeff went to Jones Beach. I took him for his 50th birthday, and we saw Black Sabbath. I never had the enthusiasm to go see Black Sabbath. I'm a fan, but I'm not a huge fan. But I said I want to see Sabbath before they retire. I went. If Sabbath came back 2 or 3 years later, I'd be a little pissed off about it. I paid a lot of money for good seats. So to me, while I get the fact if you're a big Motley Crue fan, maybe you're happy. I just think it's a milking of the fans. And I think that's terrible. To me, don't retire. Just say we're taking a break. We'll let you know if we're coming back or not. And then when you decide 3 years later you want to come back and say, okay, we're ready to play again. Or hey, we've got to the point, we're done, we shake hands, we're hugging, and we're out. But you can't be Kiss and some of these other people who've retired numerous times. It's first off, it's annoying. Now, nobody says you can't. Tom Brady retired and came back. Brett Favre did it for years. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't enjoy it. I think it's terrible. You do it different, right? I get it, but it's on the Who's last show I need to. Right, I break you again. I'm not telling you that the way I think is what you should think or anybody else should think. So there's nothing wrong with that, and they do because guys like you are going to go, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just for me, I'm saying is when you tell me it's the last show, like okay, I went to Don Mattingly Day after he retired. I paid extra money for good seats. I bought the commemorative baseball. I bought all the stuff that went with it. If Don Mattingly 2 years from that said, hey, I'm coming back, I would have been pissed. I spent money on the tickets, and I paid a premium at the time. It was $1995. I paid a premium to get in. I bought all this commemorative stuff, which I have. And then what? You're going to tell me, I came back for a year or two. That stuff's out. I'm going to do it again. That bothers me. I'm not telling you that it bothers everybody. Now, Ken, Kiss, again, why did they retire the first time? I don't know. How many actual retirement tours did they have? Was it 2? 3? But regardless, don't retire. Just say, hey, we don't know what we want to do next. We're taking a break. If we bring it back, we'll let you know. If we don't bring it back, we'll have a party. If you're going to go see them, you're going to go see them. It shouldn't be I'm going to go see them because they're retiring, but people do. I like myself. You just, again, at the end of the day, you're milking your fans. You're taking people's money under the guise that this is it. You're never going to see this again. This is the last time. No more. And then all of a sudden, we're back. Hi. Oh, by the way, we brought new people with us. That bothers me. I don't know why. It just does. Most people are like Frankie. They don't care. And that's fine. That's why people do it. Because if Motley Crue quit and came back and nobody cared, they wouldn't still be there. But people do. So that's why. I'm just giving you my opinion. So I hope Aerosmith's done from the sense of, now, here's the difference from this one. Now, maybe you guys think I'm crazy. Here's the difference with this Aerosmith thing. Most of it seems to be because Steven Tyler's vocals went. It's kind of like the AC/DC thing. Okay? They were going to call it a day. Brian Johnson can't do it anymore. Steven Tyler, a year from now, has miraculous surgery. He heals up and says, I could sing again. Hey, boys, let's get together. That I understand. They didn't want to quit. They did it because Steven Tyler can't sing anymore. Steven Tyler can sing. Go out there and sing. But don't say, hey, we've run off course. We've done everything we could do. There's nothing left. I hate them. They hate me. We're moving on. And then a year from now, go, oh, we need the money. We're coming back. That's the one that bothers me. Yeah, listen, again, Frankie, I get it. That's the point with the Kiss thing. If a year from now they go, well, there's been a lot of demand for us to come back. You don't tell me you're not being pissed off again? You're like, no, the Brett Favre thing turned into a joke because he quit for 3 straight years. At some point you go, are you quitting? Quit. Don't sit there and go, I might quit. I think I'm going to quit. I'm pretty sure I'm going to quit. I don't think I'm going to quit. I think I'm going to hang around one more year. That turns into a circus, and nobody wants that. So, anyway, let's get on to the Mets and Yankees a little bit. Talking about the Judge thing with the Yankees. Listen, I don't blame teams. I think it's the pussification. But it happened. It happened to Barry Bonds. It happened to Roger Maris, and now it happened to Aaron Judge. Now the Yankees. Let me see the actual record right now for the New York beloved Yankees are right now. I think they're 68-47. They lost last night, so it's 68-47. They're right up there. Let's say there's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are in the ballpark. The Mets are not one of them, by the way, just for the record. The Mets only have 59 wins, although I think they won last night, so they have 60. So they're still 8 behind the Yankees, just for the record. But they did beat the Yankees 4 times this year, so there's nothing I'm bragging about. Anyway, I don't have a problem with teams walking Judge because, hey, if that's the one guy who can beat you, why let him beat you? Okay, so there you go, Frankie. All right, so good for you. Thank you, Billy Graz. So anyway, I think that I don't have a problem with it. That's baseball. Here's how you beat it. You put somebody behind Judge who, if they walk him, has the ability to be. Now Austin Wells has been playing really well the last month or so. He's still not scaring anybody. And people are saying, all right, keep doing it. Then maybe we'll change our mind. Now, I go back to my conversation with my dad. I really would put Soto behind Judge because Soto likes to walk anyway. So I would do that. I would have no problem sacrificing Soto a little bit for Judge. And I also don't think that people would be as reticent to walk Soto. Judge is already on base, right? Soto is not as dangerous a hitter as a Judge. He's a dangerous hitter, don't get me wrong, but he's not hitting 60 homers. He goes into a funk. I've seen it a few times so far this year. And Frankie, I'm not going to argue with you. Judge is quietly becoming the best player I've ever seen. And I wouldn't have said that a few years ago. But, plays at least 2 positions in the outfield, right field and center field, and well. He runs well. He's got a great arm. Hits for average. Hits for power. Right now, Aaron Judge going back a few years, I'm going to say going back 3 or 4 years, is the best player in baseball. And I don't think it's close. There's some good players. Trout, to me, has completely dropped off the face of the earth. Now, is Judge the best player I've ever seen? It's close. Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, A-Rod, those guys are the best I ever watched live. Those guys are the best. Now, again, you could tell me a couple of them guys with steroid issues. Still the best plays I've ever. I mean, A-Rod to me is one of the best plays I've ever seen. I mean, the guy 6'5", played shortstop like a 5'10" guy. Ran the bases well, hit for power, hit for average. Now, again, all muddied because of the steroid bullshit. But Judge is, with another year or two of this, it is hard for me not to say he might be the best player I've ever seen. As great as Griffey was, Judge may hit for more power. Griffey hit a lot of home runs, 600 and change, no doubt. But right now, it's getting close. I mean, you need another year or two. There's been the injury bug has hurt him. It happened to Griffey too, but at the end of his career, all those years with the Reds, maybe toward the end with the Mariners. But I agree with Frankie. Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball and might be the best player I've ever seen. It's scary. And yes, if I was on the opposing team, I'd walk him too. What? The guy's hitting 470-foot blasts. I mean, it's just frightening how great he is. So, that is, if you're gonna have to think about a theory of how to do this, at the end of the day, you don't want to sit at the press conference and go, okay, why did you let Aaron Judge beat you there? I don't know. I thought I could get him out. You can't get him out. So to me, I'm with all you guys. I'm with Frankie. I'm riding that train too. At the end of the day, let's see. I'm getting text messages. Wow, that's crazy. Wow. Anyway, I'll have to give. Wow, I just got an amazing offer. That's crazy. Let's see. Anyway, I'm getting text messages. Let me just check it. Hold on. Doing the show right now and DVRing the game. Doing the show right now and DVRing the game. Anyway, guys, sorry, I'm answering some messages. All right, so it's 8:10. I got a feeling Frankie's not showing up. I got one for you guys, so I'll just continue on for a few more minutes and then call it a night. Thank you all for hanging in with me. It makes it so much better when I don't feel like I'm talking to myself right now. I'm going to hold the 5 worst losses in Jets and Giants history till Jeff's back next week. I think I'm going to end it with. All right, Frankie, I'm going to ask you if you're still out there. Frankie, anybody else want to add to this? If you could wrestle one wrestler in history, who would it be? If you had the ability to go back and wrestle one guy, one match, who would you want to wrestle? See what you want to tell me. We'll talk about the NFL inductions next week with Frankie's back, if you could do this show. I'll hold the Eli thing till next week. Let's see. Kyler Murray, Aerosmith. We'll hold the quarterbacks for Jeff. Oh, I got one. So somebody who said this week, and I thought it was actually not the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Stone Cold. That's a really good one. I don't know who I'd pick. I gotta be honest. My initial thought was Macho Man. I would have loved to get in the ring. The guy's one of the best technicians. He was a maniac. I would have loved to have had the ability to wrestle the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Stone Cold's another good one. Which was that's Frankie. That would be borderline not wrestling. Just be careful. I think we can qualify that as maybe not wrestling at that point, but whatever. So there was an interesting one. Somebody mentioned, obviously the NFL rules lately, the last few years of, you took away 2-a-day practices. You can't hit in practice. Nobody plays their starters in the preseason anymore. Well, somebody proposed it, and I thought it was it's tough to think about how it would actually work. What if everybody played their quarterbacks, but nobody was allowed to tackle them? Give it a moment. Think about it. So think about the biggest thing right now in the NFL has been for me is the first month of the season is basically preseason. Now the games count, don't get me wrong, but you're working out the kinks. You're throwing passes in live. Nobody's telling me that a 10, 11 on 11 or a 7 on 7 drills in practice, I don't care how much you turn your defense loose, is the same intensity as practicing or playing against another team. We're seeing it this week with the Giants and the Lions. We'll see with the Jets and the Lions. What if you said the quarterbacks go out there, they have a red jersey on, and the best you could do is two-hand touchdown or whatever it is. Just go by them and tap them, but you're not allowed to tackle them. Think about it. Now, listen, they could easily run around on the field, blow out a knee, an Achilles. It happens. Plantar fasciitis. But you can do that anywhere. You can do that in practice. But to me, I think it would help the early part of the season. We all know how bad the early part of the football season is. Teams are basically going through the training camp. I think it's actually something to think about. I don't think my first thought was, wait, that's actually not bad. It's not dumb. I don't think it'll ever happen, mind you. I mean, right now, Kyler Murray is not playing at all in the preseason because they don't want to get him hurt. And I get it. But Kyler Murray sucks. So that's how bad the Arizona Cardinals are, is that they don't want to play him. Now, I think I hear the Bears are playing Caleb Williams, probably a little bit. The Giants aren't going to play Daniel Jones. I think tonight is Drew Lock. Now maybe he gets in there at some point. I want Daniel Jones to play. I need him to run around out there, throw passes. Now, again, I'll be the first one screaming and yelling if he or Malik Neighbors blows out a leg in the second preseason game. But that's what happens. This is part of being in the National Football League. So otherwise, don't play preseason games. Show up week 1 and just go for it. Or basically it turns into what it's turning into now. All the scrubbinis, all of the undrafted free agents, all the 7th round picks, 6th round picks are going to play football for 2 or 3 weeks. They'll whittle down the roster, and then we'll get 3-4 weeks of mediocre to bland football that we should have saw in the preseason. So, again, to me, you could still do all that and play my quarterback and just tell guys nobody hits. If you hit the quarterback at all, you're out for a month. You don't play for a month. You knock a player out for the season, you're out for the season. I guarantee you nobody's hitting the quarterback. But it gives the quarterback a chance to get into game shape, throwing passes with bodies flying by him, with the number one defenses for the other team on the field. To me, that's what I like to see. Frankie, I agree with that, but it's still not the same intensity as a game. It's close. Don't get me wrong. It's close. But the Giants do it for 2 days. You maybe they'll do it against. I think they're doing it against Jets. So 4 days in the summer, you're practicing controlled against another team. It's close, but there's nothing to me like being out there in a game situation. There's nothing like being out there in that spot where you having to mimic. You have to mimic what it's like to be out there. So to me, I got to be honest with you. I don't think it's a dumb idea. I really don't. I'm not saying I'm. I don't know if he's talking to me. I don't know if it's about me. Anyway, listen. I think there's ways to get better. I'm not sure what it is, but I just looked. I think to me, there's some stuff that you could do to make things better, and run it out a little further and get the teams ready to play a little sooner. That's all I'm trying to say. I think it's something interesting. So, guys, with that, I think I'm going to end the show here. I got a bunch of things to talk about. I kind of was hoping to get Frankie and Jeff involved. So I think I'm going to end it here. I'll go watch the Giant game. I'm a little tired. I got an early start in the morning, and we'll come back next week and do it all over again. But I appreciate everybody chiming in with me tonight. It was a good hour and 15, 20 minutes, and I'm pumped to do it again. Thank you all for tuning in and being a part of the Hard Rocket Sports Show. Frankie, you're the best. I still say be careful of the Trish Stratus thing. People come looking for you. It's a little borderline not wrestling. You got to wrestle with your pants on, Frankie. Make sure you get your pants on. Anyway, anytime, thank you everybody for tuning in, watching the show. Joy, there's a lot of football tonight. You got a lot of football this weekend, so make sure you do. We'll be back here next Thursday night doing this show all over again. So in the meantime, thank you for watching the Hard Rocket Sports Show and supporting us like you do every week, and I appreciate it. Thank you for both Jeff and myself. So, guys, listen, in the meantime, have a great rest of your night, a great weekend, a great rest of your week, and a great next week, and we'll see you back here next Thursday night on the Hard Rocket Sports Show. So for Jeff Nowinski, myself, and everybody at the Hard Rocket Sports Show, I say thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you later on. Guys, have a great night. I'll see everybody on the other side.